In this video, I want to identify some basic but very common tactics used in a negotiation. These are communication tactics or communication-related tactics that can be used to achieve strategic objectives within the negotiation. Okay, to start with, let's talk about direct presentation. Well, direct presentation is simply a name for presenting information to the other party. That is, you are giving them some information about yourself. Now, that is done generally with the purpose of the other party responding back or giving information back about themselves. As we've said many times throughout this video series, negotiation is at its heart a communication exercise. To be a skilled negotiator, you generally need to wield information, to selectively disclose information, to receive information, and to use that in framing up your negotiation and developing a strategy full of both strategic objectives and tactics that will allow you to achieve your overall desired outcome in the negotiation. In that way, a direct presentation of information to the other side and the reciprocal receipt of information directly presented by the other side is first and foremost the number one communication tactic used. Okay. Next, vague reference. That's where you don't directly communicate an idea or factual information. Okay. You talk around it. You talk about things, right? But you don't actually state the information at heart. For example, vague reference would be if I mention, so assuming that there's another offer out there. Rather than saying, I have another offer, the offer is for this amount. Instead, I make reference to, so assuming that there's another offer, okay? I talk about it, I don't speak to it. It creates a perception in the other party's mind simply because you're, once again, identifying something that is relevant to the negotiation, but you are leaving out information so that it in a way causes them to think or develop further upon that information, to ideate upon it and make suppositions and thus react to it. So vague reference is a very important tool. It is a very important sales tactic. It is a very important communication technique. It can be used in so many different ways in the negotiation. Okay. Next, screening activities. Screening activities is simply asking questions of the other party. Asking questions that the information you are soliciting is relevant to, one, how you frame up your negotiation. That is, what interests are at stake, what will be your reservation point, what will be your target point, these types of things. What are your alternatives? All of these things can be identified and information, once again, solicited from the other side that help support or define your understanding of what these things are in the negotiation. So, in a way, you are trying to, once again, perhaps take perspective, right? That's a specific tactic that is used to ask the other party's opinion on something. But screening activities are generally broader. Any question that relates to some element of the negotiation. Okay. Next, contextual modification. This relates strongly to what you're doing with your strategic objectives, right? Because a strategic objective is simply a way that you're trying to affect the negotiation context or the other party, their perception generally about you, the negotiation context, right? And you do this through tactics, right? So specific tactics used to modify that context, right? Modifying the context would be the objective. The tactics you use to do that, right? And that might be a tactic that attempts to hurry the person or make the person believe that there's a finite amount of time. Make the person believe that that a certain option is the only available course of action. Make the other party believe that you have some level of expertise or knowledge that they otherwise do not recognize, or perhaps maybe questionable as to whether you actually have that. So that being said, you're trying to modify, once again, the context of the negotiation through either the actual aspects affecting the negotiation or the other party's perception of those aspects of the negotiation. Okay, so with that being said, there are any number of tactics you can use to do this. So this is more of a strategic objective, but if you think in terms of how could I make the other party perceive something about the negotiation, how many interests are available, what are the alternatives at stake, what is the time frame, what is the medium of communication, what are the constraints at play, right? All of these things modify what the other party perceives as being the context, and once again are very useful bundles of tactics to use as part of the communication process during negotiation.